get paid every month, generate additional income from the market, and still participate in the upside. And what if the ETF doing all of this is one you've probably never heard of? I like the combination enough to replace an ETF I already owned with it, and I've been holding it since April. Back in April, I made a change to my portfolio. I sold out of XDTE and replaced it with an ETF that I thought gave me a really interesting combination of income and large cap market exposure. And no, I didn't just discover this ETF yesterday. I've owned it for several months. And I've had time to see how it fits my portfolio, and more importantly, whether I still like the position. And I do. There are several things about this ETF that caught my attention, but before I tell you what it is, let me give you the reasons why I added it. Because I think once you hear them, you'll understand why I made the switch. S&P 500 exposure, the underlying equity exposure is heavily invested in VU, giving it the fund exposure to the large cap companies that make up the S&P 500. Second, monthly income. It pays distributions monthly, which means it has 12 times to compound, add additional shares, reinvest dividends, which fits in nicely with what I'm trying to accomplish with my portfolio. Third, an options-based income overlay. Instead of simply owning the S&P 500, this fund uses put spreads on the S&P 500 to generate additional income. And fourth, the historical performance caught my attention. Seeking Alpha lists a 27.18 5-year compound annual dividend growth rate. Now, obviously, past performance doesn't guarantee future results, but put all four of these things together, S&P 500 exposure, monthly income, and options overlay, and that historical return, that's enough to make me take a serious look. And if you're enjoying the video, take a second and hit that like button and subscribe. I'm not telling you what you should buy. I'm showing you what I'm actually doing with my own portfolio, including the changes I make along the way. And this particular change has been in my portfolio since April. So now, let me show you what I actually bought. Now, there's one thing that made this particularly interesting to me. Now, let's look at the price of VU. VU is the Vanguard 500 Index Fund. Right now, it is listed at $701.83. Now, it's well over $700 a share. And obviously, share price doesn't determine whether an ETF is a good investment. But when you're investing smaller amounts of money, being able to get similar large cap market exposure without needing hundreds of dollars for a single share can be useful. That's something I pay attention to, because I'm not trying to make every investment complicated. I'm trying to make every dollar have a job. So the ETF gave me another way to do that. So what did I replace XDTE with? The ETF I replaced XDTE with back in April is OVL, the Overlay Shares Large Cap Equity ETF. And here's the important part. I didn't just make a video about OVL. I actually own it. I've owned it since April. Now, let me show you exactly where it sits in my portfolio. First of all, let me show you what OVL does, what it has. It's owned. It holds the put spreads there on VU, the Vanguard 500 Index. This is its dividend yield. Now, the thing is, bear with me, go back here. Right there, it shows OVL, now strong 10.5% rate, distribution rate, even though Seeking Alpha listed at a 7.25 rate. But look at the dividends. Paid monthly. It's a 27.18 5-year dividend growth rate. And it's been paying dividend growth. It's been 3 years, but it's been around since 2019. And also, too, this is the momentum scale. This is going to list how it performs against other holdings. That is OVL against the S&P 500, but I'm going to add a couple here. Well, I'm going to add probably the most popular S&P 500 income fund, which is SPYI, which is the NEOS fund. Let's go back here to total return. As you can see there, it is beating both the S&P 500 and SPYI over a month, but over 6 months, over a year, and 5 years, it is right up there with the S&P 500. Because like I said, it's been around since 2019. And now I'm going to show you what I actually own in it. Let's go back here. That is my position in OVL. I have 64.62 shares at $55.23 is my average cost. It is currently trading at $57.45. And for only having it since April, it's actually given me a 7.10 total return. And if you go on to Dividend.com, it will list the dividend yield at 10.14. It's paying an average annual dividend of $5.85. That's that dividend growth rate. And currently it's paying me $378.03 in annual dividend income. But one of the important metrics that I list too is how many shares that is buying me by just reinvesting dividends, which is 6.58. So it's buying me almost 7 shares every year just from reinvesting the dividends. Now, this is my actual OVL position. This is what I own, and this is why I wanted to make this video a little differently, because I'm not sitting here saying, hey, I found this ETF, maybe I'll buy it someday. No, I already made the decision. Back in April, I sold XETE and moved the money into OVL. So this is a real portfolio change that I've already made, and now you can see exactly where that decision sits in my portfolio today. For me, OVL isn't replacing everything else I own. It's another piece of the income puzzle, and I like having different investments doing different jobs. Now, I want to be clear. This isn't me saying XETE was bad. It isn't. I simply decided that OVL fit what I wanted from this particular part of my portfolio better. With OVL, I get that large cap S&P 500 exposure, I get monthly distributions, and I get that put spread option strategy that isn't covered calls, that caps the upside of whatever investment it is. That put spread approach is also different from the covered call structure that many popular income ETFs use. That's what made it interesting to me. I'm not looking for one ETF to do everything. I'm looking for different investments that can each have a job, and OVL's job in my portfolio is basically large cap exposure and income. That's a combination I can understand. Now, if you're still watching, I really appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love to have you here. And if you want to support the channel a little more, I also have a Buy Me a Coffee link in the description. You definitely don't have to. The views, likes, and subscriptions already mean a lot. But if you want to help me keep making these videos, that coffee is always appreciated. Now let's get back to the part that mattered most to me, the income. Now, this is my actual dividend income. Let's show you that. That's what I've had since April. And this is the reason I enjoy, this is my actual dividend income. This is the reason I enjoy doing this so much, because eventually the investments start paying you. You buy something, you hold it, you go to work, you live your life, and then a payment shows up. And that's what I'm trying to build with this portfolio. Not just a collection of tickers, an income-producing portfolio where every dollar has a job. And OVL is now one of those dollars doing a job. As you can see, that is my April dividend income, my May, my June, my July. And let me take it one other place here. This is Snowball Analytics. Let's go to the calendar. This is my August calendar. This is what I have coming in for August. So I have slated so far is $31.53. I should hit my account on Friday. Now, that's not necessarily that's why I'm not necessarily looking for the biggest yield I can find. I'm looking for combinations that make sense, growth potential, income, diversification, different payment schedules. I hold different investments. Some pay me weekly, some pay me monthly, some pay me quarterly. And investments I can actually understand. OVL isn't risk-free. The market can go down. The distributions can change. And an option strategy doesn't eliminate risk. And I'm not saying this is a perfect ETF. I'm not saying this is what made sense for me. But after owning it since April, I still like having it in my portfolio. Now, that actually leads me perfectly into my next video, because there's something I really enjoy about dividend investing. It's not just buying the investment. It's watching the investment eventually pay you. Awesome when you wake up in the morning, you look at your portfolio, and you found you just got paid. You're sleeping, you exercise, you're living your life, and you got paid. That's exactly what I'm going to show you in my next video, because I'm going to take you inside my portfolio and show you what those payments actually look like, because that's the part of the journey that never gets old. So that's the ETF I replaced XDTE with back in April. OVL. I've owned it for months. I've shown you the position. I've shown you why I added it, and that's why. And now you'll see how it continues to perform. And if you want to follow along the portfolio, subscribe, because I'm just getting started. And as always, every dollar has a job. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you make any sort of financial investment decisions. Now, if you stick around for this next video, I'll actually post the video where I did replace XDTE with OVL. Enjoy it, watch it, enjoy it, subscribe. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.